there's a lot of negativity to come out of that Chelsea game, and it's hard to put any other spin on it, really. I mean, I find myself actually disappointed about most things, but I noticed, looking from the outside in, if you like, some people half the people were disappointed with the refereeing decision and the VAR, and the other half of the people were sort of disappointed with the tactics Moyes decided to use. I think probably both, if truth be known. And what I wanted to do is I managed to, it completely got lost in the review that myself and Gio did. And let's be fair, it was half-hour review, and there was so much incident, so much to discuss. I guess it's normal that we forget some things. It was Paqueta, and I do want to talk about Paqueta in that game. Now, before I talk about that, I just want to go back on the VAR incident. I just sort of want to make my stance clear on it. I know I probably don't have to, but I hate the excuses. I hate the excuses. I remember years ago, I don't remember that well. I think it was a World Cup. It was Sol Campbell, scored a header, got a goal disallowed, and that was why we went out of the World Cup. And it wasn't. It really wasn't. We hadn't been good enough, right? But that was the excuse that was used, and I hated it. Even back then, absolutely hated it. And I see that now, and I see it an awful lot. And whilst I do think we were robbed, I do. But it's hard for me to hang on to that, because one thing that almost annoys me more than us being robbed is the suspicion that Moyes will hang on to that for the reason that we lost. And it probably is the reason we lost. But my point is, if he focuses on that, I think he forgets about the things he does have control of, which basically added up to us losing as well. Those things helped us along the way, if you want. And I do worry about that Moyes is so caught up in the injustice of it all that he doesn't think about what he could have done differently. I think that's my point. So when I see it happen, I think, this is not too good. That being said, the performance of Mendy I thought was atrocious. Well, actually from a goalkeeping perspective, and also the play acting as well. But there was a lot of that going on. I mean, I guess it was always going to filter its way into the Premier League, wasn't it, really? We've just seen a lot more of it. See it in the Tottenham game and see it in this one. And that's why I will always hope, and you please pull me up on it if I'm not, I always hope that I will not like to see it if players do it in a West Ham shirt. And actually, I thought Antonio was, took a little dive in this game as well, but, not to the extent that Chelsea were cheating and play acting. I just thought they were there for the taking. We could have really, really gone for it, and we didn't. And I think that's a massive regret. So I hope Moyes doesn't think, the reason I lost it was the VAR. Actually, was one of the reasons, but you could have done more to impact the game. That's what I think on it. And to talk about what he could have done to impact the game, I thought the way we sat back in the first half, okay, it works. Do you know what? I get the tactic. But when I was watching it, I don't know if you felt the same, I thought, is this going to demoralise Paqueta? I mean, it didn't seem to, right? It didn't seem to. But that's what I was worried would happen. And almost thought, well, you know what? If what you're going to do is show no ambition to attack, and in the first half we didn't, why not bring Paqueta on as a sub? If that's your tactics, I don't agree with the tactics. I wouldn't have done those tactics. I would have gone for it against Chelsea. Southampton went for it. They got the win. Leeds went for it. They got the win. I would have gone for it. But the moment you decide you're not going to, you're going to play the first half defensively, then just you've got 5 subs, bring Paqueta on at half time. Put someone else in there. If that's what you're going to do, stick Flynn Downs in there. And just, I don't know. Anyway, so I was worried that he might get frustrated with it. But I'll tell you what, one of the best tackles of the game was made by Paqueta in our box, a defensive tackle. And I think I was really pleased to see that. Not because I'm hoping we bought some defensive midfield genius. I don't think he's that player at all. But I was pleased because I knew Moyes would be pleased. And if Moyes is pleased, we're going to get to see him play more. But I was frustrated that we didn't get more players around him. And every time he tried to do a little exchange of passes with somebody who wasn't quite on his wavelength up to it, it's sort of, I was a little bit worried about it. I also thought that we just didn't give him enough ball for him to be able to impact the game. But what I did see of him, I thought was really, really good. I thought we've got a hell of a player there. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. It was just frustrating to know that we've got this really good attacking talent. And then to think we're not actually utilising him. Get someone that good on the ball, and we don't get him the ball very often. And there was a lot of our play, I think it's almost an insult to call it build-up play, because there was almost no build-up, which didn't function correctly, and because of that we weren't able to get the ball to this £50 million playmaker. I do think it's something that's going to need to be addressed. And if what we're going to do is in fact, I'm going to speak about this in tomorrow's video. But basically, tomorrow's video is going to be very much, should David Moyes, bearing in mind he's had £180 million to spend, can he still play in the way that he did when he was having loan players and had someone else's team? David Moyes is still playing the tactics of a pauper, but he's had the transfer budget of a rich man. That'll be tomorrow's video. But I want to sort of focus more on the games. I want to talk about Benrahma. I want to talk about Cornet and about Paqueta a little bit more. And some of the things I didn't like. Before I do, can I please point you in the direction of our Patreon? This early on in the month is the best time to join Patreon because basically it takes your money at the start of each month. There's several reasons to join. We do two channels. We do this channel, we do the main channel, but Patreon's basically our third channel. There's just as much content over there, and it's different content. We've got the Hammerlytics with Jack over there, which is one of our newest stuff, but we've got a completely separate podcast. I'm interviewing Harry Redknapp on, I think it's Friday, actually, and the patrons get to ask him the question. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll put a little snippet of that video out on here, but, it'll be a 5-minute snippet of the interview that, I don't know how long I'll be interviewing for, half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. We've got opposition previews, we do breakfast shows, we've got loads and loads and loads of content. It's Mike on Monday, but it's not on Monday. We call it Mike on Patreon. And basically, it's a great way to support the channel, and it helps us basically do this as a full-time job, helps us give Charlie a wage. Jack, who's doing the Hammerlytics, he's as you probably heard, hopefully in the transfer deadline day special, he's trying to do this in a job, enables us to give him some money as well, and lots of other people are involved in Hammers Chat. So if you'd like to support the channel and get some additional content and discount to our store at the same time, please do check out the link below. That's patreon.com/Hammers Chat. We are very, very close to our target of basically being able to do this properly full-time. Anyway, that's all I'll say about that. But now let's just go back to Paqueta, really. I felt that Paqueta would have really enjoyed being on the pitch at the same time as Cornet and Benrahma, because when they came on, and this is so frustrating, I felt they changed the game. I'm not frustrated that they changed the game, but it gave Chelsea something to think about. For so much of that game, Chelsea basically had 3 centre-backs occupying Antonio. I mean, they did, didn't they? Okay, look, I mean, I think you saw a few times Fofana would push quite forward, far on the right. I think Koulibaly would push quite forward on the left. But when we had the ball, straight away, 3 centre-backs on Antonio. I think as soon as we had Benrahma and Cornet there, well, they had something to think about because Benrahma was allowed to play closer to Cornet than I certainly felt Paqueta was allowed to play closer to Antonio. And it does make you wonder what would happen. And we don't have to wonder for long. We will see this. We will see in games Paqueta, Benrahma and Cornet. We'll see, or whatever, a different combination of those. We will see it where we have attacking players on the pitch and they're allowed to attack. And that's great, and I look forward to seeing it. But I'm not entirely sure we're going to see it against the big teams because I mentioned it in the review. It's like David Moyes has got this old opinion of the top 6. I think he thinks it's whatever, top 6, top 4. It's almost like his memory of it is sort of like 10 years old. It's not that anymore. It's completely different. For the past 2 or 3 years, it was a top 2, and they were loads better than the rest. What's happened this season is Man City have strengthened, and Liverpool haven't really. Yes, I know they brought in Nunes as a striker, but they need a striker and they need a midfielder. They appear not to have the money to do it. And so you've basically got a top 1. And all the others are not quite as good. I mean, I guess comparatively compared to the last 10 years, Arsenal seem to be a little bit better, but they're not. It's not the Invincibles. It's not the Arsene Wenger team that David Moyes would have played against Everton. Yet he still treats everybody. He treats it like it's Arsene Wenger's Arsenal. He treats it like it's Chelsea under Jose Mourinho in their pomp with Iron Robin up front and all the rest of it on the wing and Drogba and all the rest of it, right? He treats Man United like it's the Man United under Alec Ferguson with Beckham on the right or Van Nistelrooy or whatever. That's how he still treats everybody. What he doesn't do is look at that team and think, Loftus-Cheek, not crap, is he? Loftus-Cheek is not crap, he's not brilliant. Far from it. In fact, I thought, and it's not just Loftus-Cheek, I thought the time to win that match was before they brought all their good players on, but David Moyes didn't see it the same way. And I find it so frustrating that we didn't go for it then to have enough flexibility in your team to think, okay, right, I'm actually going to go for this. Actually, no, there was a midfield that could have been dominated there. Do you not think so? Of Loftus-Cheek and Conor Gallagher, what, we couldn't come up with something for the players that we've got to dominate that midfield? Of course we could. And I thought they were lacking that little spark, that bit of magic, that, like Kevin De Bruyne, which has got a sting for Chelsea fans. They had Kevin De Bruyne. No one of that quality of Phil Foden. Funny, I've said it at Liverpool. Thiago, I know he's injured at the moment. Thiago, magical player. They've got no one like that. So actually, we were doing all right. It wasn't until... Well, I think we just pushed our luck too much. There was a point in the first half when they'd had 8 corners. If you weren't there's a stat flashed up on screen, at least on the thing I was watching anyway. Chelsea had 8 corners, we'd had none. Oh, well, that's quite depressing, really, isn't it? And lo and behold, the moment we started having corners, we got a goal. And that's just because we hadn't been attacking them. We hadn't basically forced the goalkeeper into any saves. It palmed it round the post, and he was a dodgy goalkeeper. I think that's another frustrating thing. How dodgy was that goalkeeper? We didn't test him. Imagine if we'd have started testing that goalkeeper from the start of the game. Could have been very, very different. And I don't think you don't want to come away from games like that with regrets and what-ifs. And I think you do. And it's really hard to watch it. And yes, and I'll go back to the start of the video. Yes, we were robbed, and the VAR and Mendy to play acting. It felt very frustrating. All very, very frustrating. The goal should have stood. But it should never been in that position. Never should have been. Imagine if we'd have started that game with, look, I mean, I guess the easy way to say it, imagine we'd have started that game with Paqueta, Cornet, Benrahma and Antonio. I had a go at them. I think we'd have beaten them. I really do. Even if, and I mentioned this in the review, when Antonio came off, he wasn't replaced with Benrahma going in as striker. Put Cornet on as striker straight away. Don't wait. It's almost like he's so convinced, Moyes, that he can win the game a couple of minutes at the end. It's weird. I don't know. Anyway, it's very, very frustrating. Very annoying. I think we've got the makings of a good team. But as I will go into it in more detail tomorrow, David Moyes needs to... David Moyes needs to show a little bit more ambition to make sure that he's the guy around to be able to do that. Yes, we lost to Chelsea. But you know what? Last season we beat Chelsea. We did go for it. I don't know. Anyway, as I say, I hope he doesn't sit back and think too much. Do you know what? I was hard done by there. We were going to win that game, and then fate turned against me. Well, sometimes don't leave fate into it. Don't let VAR come into it. Sometimes basically make the decisive move. Get the game won. That crowd were ready to turn. They didn't even start singing until the 55th minute. I wrote it down in my book. It was all you could hear at the start in that first half was West Ham fans. They were ready to turn, that crowd, and he didn't. He notices a lot, David Moyes, but sometimes he doesn't notice the obvious things. Like there's a team there for the taking. As I say, I think he's a bit blinded by what Chelsea were 10, 15 years ago. Anyway, that's it. Right, anyway, thank you very much. If you do subscribe to Patreon, thanks so much. We had a couple of sign-ups yesterday, which really helps us sort of get over the line. Please do check out the link below. We've got 3 different tiers. I said I wouldn't mention it again, didn't I? And I did mention it again. I apologise. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.